I understand that Ed Liddy is working for $1 a year. I don't doubt that he took the position to serve his country. I don't suspect for a second that he's personally profited in any way by any decision that he has made. And I know he took harsh questions last week, including from me. But he was also, at the time he accepted the position, on the board of Goldman Sachs, had been for more than 5 years, had been chairman of the audit committee, presumably was involved in decisions about valuing the counterparty positions on credit default swap contracts with AIG FP. Was there any discussion about whether appointing Mr. Liddy created issues of appearances, and about whether he really brought in the detachment and the fresh eyes that was needed to either Secretary Geithner or Chairman Bernanke?
I want to say one thing is important about this.
Okay.
I would never, and I don't believe anybody at this table who results in would ever make a judgment because it would benefit a specific firm in this context, either AIG or any of the specific counterparties in this context. I would never do that, never put my department in the position of doing that. Now, in that particular case, with respect to Mr. Liddy, the choice of the chief executive and the suggestion that he be appointed was not made by the Fed, New York Fed. I was presented with him as a possible candidate. I did an independent assessment of whether he was qualified for that. In my judgment, he was an excellent choice and brought us the extraordinary benefit of having somebody very experienced and capable come in and run this company. Now, and I don't believe that anything he's done since then is vulnerable to criticism, that he's been doing so in a way effective, anything but serving the interests of the American taxpayer and helping that company dig out of this mess.
Secretary Geithner, there's a concept called the appearance of impropriety. Not impropriety, but the appearance of impropriety. He was on the board of directors of the company that had Goldman Sachs, which had the most exposure to credit default swap contracts with AIGFP. Now, I was very careful in saying I am not suggesting that he has personally profited, but there may be a natural tendency to think of the public interest in terms of the interest of people you actually know. And there might be a tendency to think of the public interest and Goldman Sachs' interest as being more interrelated than other Americans would see them. And that appearance is what I'm getting at. Was there not any discussion of whether there was a problem with the appearance?
You know, we have to make choices in this context. It's about alternatives. In our judgment, that was the best choice at the time.
So there was no discussion of any appearances, any issue of appearances, or whether by virtue of his own having been involved in decisions about valuing credit default positions that he would be pretty sympathetic to people who are counterparties.
No concern about that particular issue. But of course we knew where he was coming from and what his experience was. But that broad mix of experience made him a exceptionally qualified person to take this job.
Okay. I have been assuming all along that we had smart, aggressive, mean lawyers looking at possible personal liability claims against people who've been involved personally in these decisions. That yes, these companies are now unable to pay their bills, unable to pay their debts, but a couple years ago were doing fabulously well. That money is now gone. In the words of the country music song, it's in a bank in someone else's name. And we've shown very little interest. Mr. Liddy showed no interest in pursuing personal liability claims against officers or directors or employees based upon breach of fiduciary duty or other fraud, fraudulent conveyance, negligence, any other theory. Are we looking at personal liability claims against the people who are involved in these decisions and have profited fabulously from them?
As I said, we are looking at a range of legal avenues with lawyers, smart and aggressive lawyers. I don't think they're mean lawyers, but smart and aggressive lawyers.
I know some mean lawyers.
Maybe we could use some mean lawyers at the Treasury and the Justice Department. And we're, as I promise you, we are exploring all available legal avenues.